Oh,
Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll look over our agenda and see if we have any changes. Do we have any alterations?
I've got a couple, if you don't mind. Under proposed consent agenda, if you go down to number 5, letter F, where it says voucher number 1035, if we could alter the description to say employees, plural, reimbursements, plural, comma, payroll adjustments, comma, WIAA, comma, YVIAA, comma, and driving abstracts. And then under number 11, letter C, policy 24XX should be actually numbered 2415. That's all I have.
Not really altering, just editing.
Just, yeah, yes, I agreed. You'd think an English teacher would know that.
Any other comments or questions? Proposals? Well, the chair would entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve tonight's agenda. I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Delegations, Mr. Peterson.
I do not have any delegations this evening, Mr. Thornton.
Okay. We'll move right into the consent agenda then. We have a new assistant wrestling coach.
Mhm.
Payroll this month. For this,
Yeah, that's an estimate for the end of the month.
okay.
Yeah, thank you for answering my questions on the out-of-state travel. So sounds like that's covered by the Benton City Coalition. So.
Yep. Looking forward to a report from them when they get back, actually.
Yep.
So any questions, comments on the agenda? Consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. Let's see. Number 6, Director Julie Reinschmidt resignation. I'll turn it to you, Mr. Peterson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thornton. This could have gone into the consent agenda, at which point we would have had to ask Julie to not vote on the consent agenda. So we wanted to pull this one out. One, so we can thank Julie for past 8 years on the school board. She is resigning. She did not run for re-election and no one ran in her spot. But we want to thank her as well as Mr. Thornton, who's tonight is his last official, I mean, not just last official meeting, I mean, we're getting down to the minutes right now.
Seconds, if I
But
can.
I just wanted to ask for the approval also. Policy 1114, which talks about resignation of school board members. Typically, when a school board member resigns, it is effective upon the approval of the board during the next meeting. So because Julie would like to resign effective this meeting and not have to return in January to hear that it was accepted, which would technically keep her on the board for another month, she's actually resigning effective 9 o'clock this evening. So according to policy, she, upon approval by the board, she will no longer be on board as of 9 o'clock. And I just have to say it, you have until 9 o'clock to rescind your resignation if you so choose. I doubt that's gonna happen, but when I read that, I chuckled to myself and I had to say it out loud. So anyway, so with that, I would ask the board to approve Director Reinschmidt's resignation.
Well, as much as I would like to vote against that, I just really want to thank Julie for her passion and wisdom serving this board. And I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I was able to watch that meeting online and just really appreciate, one of your parting gifts to the board and the district is pushing forward those goals, those academic goals and the SEL goals that we set. So I think that'll have a lasting impact, but thank you very much for all you've done for the district and this community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
She serves
It's
as
been an
chairman.
honor and pleasure to serve with all of you.
Yep,
Thank you for your dedication to our kids and our staff and our community. And we've been through a lot, the McCleary fix and COVID and a lot of changes. And, anyway, I've learned a lot and I appreciate all of you. So.
I'd like to make a motion to accept Julie's resignation.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, my last official motion.
And we kind of have a 6.5. It really does belong with 6, though. I want to read into the record a list, and this is by not even close to all the accomplishments. However, things that board member Thornton and Reinschmidt have accomplished over the past 8 years as members of the board. From my perspective, they had a successful superintendent search that they oversaw. They have overseen the hiring of 4 different building level administrators, navigated the McCleary fix. Jury's still out on that one, but we did that. Navigated COVID. Some might say we're still navigating. I think we're pretty free and clear. Led the district through a double levy failure, but then led the district to a successful levy in spring of 2023. Set a board policy regarding academic focus and priority of the board. Set district goals for academic success. Approved a survey and study for facility management and 10-year facilities plan. Completed the first district full asset inventory. Adopted PowerSchool as a student information system. Reinstated map testing in the district. Created during COVID and then implemented and expanded our virtual online program. Implemented transitional kindergarten. Began the ongoing process for full dual language adoption in the district.
All 8 years.
District-wide inclusion and co-teaching processes. And they adopted the ARC reading curriculum at the elementary school. By no means a complete list, but we could go on and I know that not everybody came to hear everything. So I just want to thank you for these accomplishments. You have a lot to look back on, but I'd ask you to come forward, please. Julie and Dale, on behalf of the district, would like to present you with a plaque for your service. Thank you. For your dedicated years of service. Absolutely. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Dale. Oh.
You're fine.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Okay,
So, thank you very much.
absolutely. Thank you again.
You know, I wore my lucky blue and white shirt that I usually wear.
Absolutely. And now I would, moving on
Moving on to number 7.
Moving on to number 7. We're going to swear in our new board member, Ms. Gina Warner, who's going to come and take Dale's spot. Yep.
I mean,
Ms. Warner, if you wouldn't mind. Sit your head down if you like. So raise your right hand. Repeat after me, please. I, Gina Warner,
I, Gina Warner,
do hereby solemnly swear or affirm,
oh, great. Can you repeat that?
do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
Do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of Director of Kiona-Benton City School District Number 52,
of Director of Kiona-Benton City School District Number 52,
Benton County, State of Washington,
Benton County, State of Washington,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please have a seat.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh.
We just sit here.
And
watch
this
it.
will, yeah, and this is one of those extremely rare times when I actually, for a few brief moments, will lead the board meeting onto number 8. And we have some elections that we need to take care of to put this group back in working order. The first thing we need to do is elect a chair for the board for the upcoming year, along with a vice chair. And then we'll elect a legislative representative who will take Julie's spot upon her effective resignation at 9 o'clock tonight. So the first thing I would do is ask if any members of the board have any nominations for chair.
Well, I'll nominate Josh here for the chair.
Do we have a second?
I agree. Josh is great.
Then the only time, if I can have a roll call vote, please. Josh?
Oh, I'll abstain.
All right, excuse me. We need a- You can tell I don't do this often. We do need a motion, please.
I'll go and make the move to nominate Josh.
I second that.
Thank you.
Well, I'll say it's not something I've yearned for, but I've been sitting next to Dale for a while, so I'm happy to try and take that on if there's no one else that wants to step forward. As much as Teddy, I'd love to nominate you. Made that pretty clear, so appreciate the vote of confidence there.
Absolutely.
Let's make it official with a vote, please.
Gina?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Aye.
Excellent. Motion carries, and I thankfully will now turn over running of the meeting to our newly elected chair, Mr. Skipper.
I abstained. Yeah, I'm not gonna vote for myself, so I can't do that.
Thank you. I just-
All right, well, any nominations for vice chair?
Well, I'll nominate Teddy for vice chair.
I'll second that.
Any others? Okay, well, I certainly think Teddy has the experience for that. Do we need to make an official motion then? I'll go ahead and move to approve Teddy as vice chair. Okay, and votes.
I,
Aye.
They're just rushing through them, Heidi, you keep it up?
I'm shy.
No, I'm not gonna vote for myself, I will abstain.
All right, next, so legislative representative.
And just so it's clear, if I might, Mr. Skipper,
Yes.
the legislative representative is responsible for being the liaison between the board and any actions that take place on the part of WASDA, the State School Directors Association. Also affords that person the opportunity to go to the Hill in Olympia, meet with legislators. Of course, we can do that anytime we want to, but there's a formal WASDA time that happens. So if you choose, you may also do that. I think the primary responsibility though is there are WASDA meetings where things are discussed and voted upon. So that person is responsible for voting on behalf of the board.
Well, if we can have some conversation, is that something that sounds interesting to you, Gina?
conversations of what exactly?
Does the concept of legislative representative, does that position interest you?
As far as, I'd be interested.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, that would be something that.
How many
would be-
meetings did he go to? Like,
And realistically, there's one online event where members are asked to go and take a formal vote. There's one time a year where that happens. Of course, we as a group will typically go to WASDA, the conference as a whole group whenever it's in Spokane. It'll be in Spokane again next year. But yeah, it's 1 2-day meeting online that you just need to be a part of and be able to, I think they even do their voting by text messaging service.
I guess
So-
Julie could probably tell us a bit of the burden that entails.
Well, you do get notified of the kind of a priority list from WASDA. And so that's one of the meetings where you vote on, can't remember the exact terminology, but the most important items that you would like to present to the legislature. And so that's an online meeting. And then we have the Day on the Hill. And then you will also get invited to attend Zoom meetings monthly with a local group here where you can just stay more informed about what's happening in the legislature. So it's, I don't know, I think it's a good position where you can just be aware of what's happening that will eventually come down, from the legislature to affect our district. So and it's a good chance to let our small district voice concerns be heard. So.
Yeah, I don't think whoever fills that role, I don't think you're thrown into it by yourself. It's certainly something that the board, Mr. Peterson and everyone else will offer assistance, just more of a formality that is someone serving that role. Stick around here. So I will nominate Gina Warner for the position.
You're comfortable with that?
Yeah, I a little new as far as the
Right. That's a lot,
process,
being
but I
brand
mean,
new.
yeah, I actually.
Only 10
recent-
minutes.
I know.
You're seasoned now.
But, coincidentally, we actually this year, me and my family, we went and toured the Hill. We went and got a tour of the whole facility, so kind of
Nice.
cool being up there, so it won't be that overwhelming.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm okay with that.
Then I will second that nomination.
Interested. Don't wanna spill any secrets or anything, so.
So we just need a motion.
Right, well, I will make a motion to approve Gina Warner as legislative representative.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 There we go. That carries. Okay, on to public comments. You mind slide me our little spiel in the purple folder there?
Oh, it's,
Thank you. All right, the board welcomes input from the community, from the public. Please follow the public comment procedure by stating your name at the podium when recognized by the chair. Each person is allowed 3 minutes to speak. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items not on the agenda. The board will direct the superintendent to follow up on any items that arise during public comment as appropriate. The board will not allow complaints against individual staff member or student in open session unless that individual has requested an open public hearing. In other words, no student or employee names can be used. Do we have any public comment? State your name, please.
I'm Alexandra Brumbaugh, and I'm the seventh grade math teacher at the middle school. On the 29th of November, at the district technology committee meeting, we were told that there was a proposal submitted for monitoring software, and it just needed to be approved on the financial side of things. Since then, the committee members, we have not heard back as it being approved. So I'm here today to ask you to find the funds to make that a reality. In case you aren't aware of what I'm referring to, there are programs out there that allow teachers to see the screens of their students' computers while they're in their classroom. In addition to monitoring the screens, it's a useful tool that can pause their screens when the students need to be paying attention to something that's not their computers. And it even allows the teachers to show something at the screens all at once, so everybody's seeing the same thing. Understanding that our district has limited funds, I still truly believe that this is a purchase crucial to the online safety and well-being of our students, as well as necessary in order for our teachers to be able to use the technology that we have in the most impactful ways. We wouldn't allow a group of students to hang out in an empty classroom without an adult, but with the access that the district gives students and teams, we allow that to happen online every single day. They create teams and chats amongst themselves, and as you would expect, they act in unfavorable ways. Some of it is innocent and friends getting along and collaborating with classmates, but there's also a lot of bullying and harassment that happens. And it's happening on devices that we gave them while they're sitting in our classrooms. I would love to tell you that all of my students are always on task when they have their computers, but unfortunately, that's just not the reality of our situation. When students are on their computers in a classroom, it's impossible to monitor all the screens at once. Even if I'm standing in the back of the room, the screens are small and easily covered. But plus, most of our students can switch between different tabs and windows with 2 clicks of a button when they know that we're walking towards them. But it's not just their poor conduct in teams, it's also playing games when they should be researching stuff or watching videos when they should be writing a paper. It's the internet and the possibilities for avoiding schoolwork are endless. The teachers of the middle school have been asking for some sort of monitoring software since the beginning of last year, 4 months before our students ever got their laptops. I know that many of the middle school teachers, myself included, don't utilize the student laptops to the potentials that we could because there's no way to monitor what the students are doing. Why did we make this investment in this technology if we're not going to provide the teachers what they need to implement it in a safe and impactful way? I assure you that purchasing a monitoring software for our district will only open up more educational opportunities for students, as well as make an aid in the efforts that we make to help our students feel safe and welcome to school.
Thank you. Is there something you can follow
absolutely. I can give you an answer right now if you like.
up? Are we allowed to do that?
I am allowed to inform the board that Mr. Rodriguez has finalized, he's provided a quote and we approved that this morning.
Great.
So the purchase process is now underway. Mona, I think it's is getting the PO ready, so it's been approved and it's done. So when it's done, of course, there's things to be loaded onto the laptops. I think it can be done remotely, I'm not sure, David. But suffice to say, it's been approved.
Is that something that'll probably gonna affect this year as far as?
Oh, yeah. It'll go into effect as soon as David is able to make it work.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Any electronic?
I do have an electronic for you. This came to us by email from Heidi Rogers. Good evening. Listed on tonight's meeting agenda under number 5F, it lists employee reimbursement for the amount of $7,745.27. Seems like a rather large amount for an employees to be reimbursed for. So wondering what the amount was for and if it is proper procedure for employees to make such large purchases and then be reimbursed later. If you could answer my questions via email, I'd appreciate it. And I'd also like to know who approved the purchase cost to begin with.
Well, I think we answered that with the agenda change, but if you can follow up with her over email as well. for her
Absolutely.
request, that'd be great. That's the end of public comment? All right, so unfinished business for workshop.
Just when I thought this was done, I have 2 new dates, and this is for the board workshop for dual language to have the trainer come in and present to the board. And I completely understand why the trainer asked if we could reconsider. She travels from the west side over to Benton City. So she would like to piggyback it on a trip, which she's already going to be in the area. I would ask the board if you could look at Friday, February 9 as a possible final spot for that to occur.
You say possible final, is that preferred by her then? Is that what I'm hearing?
That she's going to be in the area February 8th, meaning she can then go on the 9th or on February 29th this year, and then be available on Friday, the 1st of March. So those are the 2 options that will save her a second trip and thus also save us from having to reimburse costs for a full trip as well.
I should be able to make either of those work.
Yeah, I shouldn't have an issue with it.
I shouldn't have an issue with the dates.
Okay. I will give Diane her choice, or our trainer's choice, and then let you know by email by the end of the week which one she chose.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. New business, the minutes from November 27th.
I just have a amendment to the second to the last sentence when we were discussing the goal. Just kind of want to make that just a little bit more clear. So I would like it to state, Director Reinschmidt shared that 80% is a huge goal, but she would want any growth, no matter what it was, to be acknowledged and celebrated so that we can continue to encourage the teachers through the process.
Okay. Any other comments on the minutes?
Just a reminder, Mr. Skipper, not to vote on this one.
I gotcha.
Perfect.
And that goes for you as well, I think. So,
I was gonna
yeah.
say I wasn't
Yeah.
there, so.
You would know,
should-
you.
So, but I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. All right, early notification of retirements, Mr. Peterson.
Yes, we would like the board to adopt again our notification, our early notification of retirement bonus option. This would not change in the amounts from last year. we're asking that the board adopt the idea that we would reimburse folks, certificated folks in the amount of $3,000, classified folks in the amount of $1,000 for notification to the district of their pending retirement by January 31st. This has been something that the district has had in practice for a number of years. I think it was about 3 years ago, we raised the amount in hopes that we could get more people telling us earlier. Last year we had a pretty significant positive impact on us getting some postings out there. So just asking the board to consider that again.
Any comments or discussion? Okay, well, entertain motion if there's no comments or discussion.
I will move to approve the early notification of retirement.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I,
All right. So now, policy 2415, elective credit for paid work experience, first reading, Mr. Peterson.
Yes, as we had, excuse me, at our last meeting, this policy has come to us through the desires of the OSBI Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Reichdahl, is supported by Mr. Inslee, our governor. And the premise behind it is simply that students who are at least 16 years old may be granted credit, elective credit, for performance of a paid employment, whether that's through, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter who it's through, simply that we're able to verify through pay stubs that they are gainfully employed. This started many years ago, and it was predominantly utilized within career and technical education. Some of us who are old enough to remember, we actually had high schoolers who were working in the main office, working in the athletics office, working in the offices of the other schools. And they were earning credit alongside a class that they were then taking at the same time. So this is simply going a little bit beyond that and saying it's not going to apply simply for CTE or school-based jobs. It would be applicable to any 16-year-old or older who holds any job. I would recommend that when the time comes after our multiple readings that this go into effect, but this really is a good opportunity for a non-traditional student who may even have to cut their days short, which we have a few, in order to go to work, for them to not lose credit to do so. But I'd be happy to entertain any questions or anything before we bring this back, obviously, for another reading.
So this isn't necessarily like a career path, it's just you are working outside of or during school hours, so.
Correct.
would there be a limit as to how many credits you could earn per semester or?
2, I think.
So I believe, and I'm looking through the fine print, I believe the limit is 2 credits that can be taken directly from work experience. So that would mean 360 hours would get you if 1 credit, so 720 hours over the course of 2 years would get you 2. Maximum, there we go, letter
Yeah.
G, a maximum 2 electric credits may be earned for paid work experience.
Well, I'm highly supportive of students entering the workforce and gaining that sort of experience. And jobs for our young people are another great way to learn. So I think it's a great idea. So.
Well, and I think increasingly, we have a number of students who are not simply working for extra money, they're working for
Sure.
in order to help support their families. So I think it's a fantastic expansion of the program, quite frankly. But if any board member does have any questions between now and the next meeting prior to second reading, then by all means, please get them to me.
I think my only one would be, I mean, would we just be checking pay stubs and then that's it, or any thoughts on? Not saying this is the idea, but like write a paper about what they're learning or what they're doing or. anything in that regard?
At this point, we would have to adjust the student's high school and beyond plan to make sure that is inclusive of that.
Mhm.
You know, ideally, you'd hope that you could get kids who are trying to go to work in areas that they may have some interest in.
Yep.
That may not be feasible, but in the least, there will be discussions. I can see those discussions happening during advisory time as they're updating their high school and beyond plans.
All right. So moving on to Director District 1 application process.
Thank you again. And of course, now that we have Director Ryan Schmidt's resignation, which is a little under 2 hours before taking effect, I just want to make the board aware that we do have a plan in place. Tomorrow, I would say no later than noon, we will have the application for anyone who lives in Director District 1 to be able to go onto our website, download the application. It is a tentative timeline, but at this point, and it seems like a longer time, but we have Christmas holiday break right in the middle. So we want to make sure that we give folks enough time before and after the break to be able to return their applications, but they'll be available starting tomorrow. We will close applications, assuming we have as many as we can get. Assuming we have then a few, we'll close them on January 17th, 4 o'clock. We will accept them electronically, directly emailed to me. We will also accept them in person. Thanks to Heidi, she did remind me if we don't do it just in person or electronic, we run the risk of having it closed down. And then we could conceivably get some in the mail a few days after closing, at which point we hope that Friday, the 19th, we can do an initial screening by the board chair and another member, and set up the interviews prior to the regular schedule meeting on the 22nd of January. Those interviews need to be in public session. So again, trying to keep, we know every member of the board is coming in on the 22nd anyway. So if we could get those for an hour and a half before the regular meeting, we can go into an executive session, make the decision, come back, seat the applicant that the board chooses, and then go on with our regular meeting. The only part that really is tentative, quite frankly, is we have to make the assumption we're going to get interested parties. If we don't have interested parties, we would extend it up to the full 90 days by statute that we have to fulfill that position. So tentatively, 4 o'clock on the 17th, and then we'll move forward from there.
Not that I desire to come to this, what happens after 90 days?
After 90 days, we need to have there will be a conversation between myself and the superintendent of the ESD and make a determination then if the ESD is going to fill a role of filling a position. Most likely at that point, though, as long as we have the 3 minimum, preferably 4 absolute minimum, we want 5 though. We know that there are districts who have run short of 5 for several years at a time when there were no viable candidates. But there are some things that the board would need to put in place to make sure that we stay within the parameters of the state law.
Well, I hope everyone spreads the word.
Yes. As I said in my memo out, if anyone knows anyone living in District 1, by all means, encourage them. And of course, if anyone has any questions, as we do prior to someone putting in for the elected office. If you have any questions or anyone has any questions about what it means to be a board member, what the responsibilities are, they can contact me either by email, by phone, carrier pigeon, whatever they would like to, and I will make some time to sit down with them.
Or any of us, our email address are on the website.
Yep, absolutely. That's all I have.
All right. And then now the board meeting calendar for 2024.
Yes, and finally,
Few Tuesdays.
my final item is simply to ask the board to take a look at the attached calendar, which really mirrors the same calendar that we used this year. With we have a couple holidays where there are normally there would be a meeting schedule, and on those two occasions, we would move it to the next Tuesday night, which would be the first day of the week back. But other than that, this is virtually the same calendar that we followed for quite a few years.
So it's the same number of meetings that we typically have.
Correct.
Any comments or concerns? All right. We're prepared. I will entertain a motion to approve the board meeting calendar for 2024.
I'll move to go ahead and approve the board meeting calendar.
Good.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
All right.
Excellent.
So now the year-end financial report, Drew.
Perfect. So I put together a financial report for you guys. David's gonna run behind the scenes for us. If you guys have any questions at any time, just go ahead and stop me.
David, can you zoom in just a little bit? My eyes aren't that great. There you go.
Look at that.
Perfect.
Okay, so this first,
It was perfect.
One more.
is that better?
There we go.
There we go.
So this first page is the balance sheet for all funds. So our assets equal our liabilities plus fund balance. Just so you guys can see, our fund balances are 1.5 million for general fund, 247,000 for ASB, 658 for debt service, 3,400 for cap projects, and transportation is 374,000. Next slide. Okay, so this report, this probably doesn't show the whole thing, but this is a comparative statement showing the change in fund balance for all funds from the end of last year to the end of this year. Couple highlights. So in our debt service fund, we had a transfer from transportation to help pay for our bus bonds. An amount of 70,000, which is typical each year. For our general fund, our net change in fund balance was negative 90,767,000. So we lost money there. Same with ASB and debt service. And then we actually gained dollars in our cap projects as well as transportation fund. Next slide. So this one is our sub fund. So in the 2018-2019 school year, districts were required to separate the revenue expenditures for our local monies and enrichment funds. So this includes levy dollars, local effort assistant funding, as well as any local grants or donations. So this is just showing how much money we brought in each of them, as well as how much we've spent and the categories that we spent them in.
So which one's 10 and which one's 11?
So the sub fund is 11. So our 10 is our normal, where everything used to be under, but now they asked us to split it out into a 1-1.
Okay.
So it's more for our coding than anything, but just so you guys have an overview of that. Next one. So this is a revenue by source chart. So I went back the last 5 years and it breaks it out by our revenue source, which is our local funding, our state funding, federal, and then any other, which is typically some of the local dollars that we receive. grants and donations. One thing to note that our state dollars are still our most counted on revenue source each year. Our federal dollars are still increased for now while we have the ESSER dollars, which I will talk about in a little bit. But that's kind of the summary of that one. So we'll go to the next one. This is our revenue variance, so budget to actual. So just looking at what we had budgeted, and how much did we bring in comparison. So for most of them, we came in higher than we had budgeted for. For state general purpose, we knew this was going to be the case because we budgeted our enrollment conservatively. And we had more kids show up to school than we had budgeted for. So it can always fluctuate in each of these though, depending on the grants that we receive and how much of the grant we actually use, especially if there's a multi-year grant, such as the ESSER funding. Next slide. So this is an overview of our expenditures for the last 5 years and it's broken out by program. As is typical year to year, basic education is our highest expenditure. It's our highest need, so we address it. The other thing I wanted to point out is our special ed expenditures were increased as expected, as we had a few more students with higher needs this last year. Next slide. This one is just breaking out the expenditures by activity code. Again, teaching is our highest activity, 1027, so it's typical for most districts. And the other thing I wanted to point out is under program 99, there is a transfer of $113,000. So in the transportation section, we have to remove the bus costs that are related to any extracurriculars and charge them back to the program. So these get costed back to levy dollars. This is just something that we do every year, but just kind of highlighting that. I'm not sure if I touched on that in prior years, so. And then the next one. This is a breakdown of salary. Something that the board and I always talk about when we go to do our budget each year is looking at what percentage of the budget is salary and benefit related. So this year was 82% of our expenses were salary and benefits. Most districts in the state are between 80 and 85%. Obviously, the closer to 80 that you get, the more expenses that you, more capacity that you have to spend on the students and their needs. So we try to keep that as close to there as possible. And last one. So this page is a fund recap. So I'm going to kind of go through each fund. Obviously, one of the big things with the board is our ending reserve percentage. This year we ended with a 6% reserve, which is higher than what we had projected. And part of this is due to a couple of things that we had happen. So we had an urgent repair grant. And initially we costed the expenditure to the general fund because the cap projects fund doesn't have the capacity for that expenditure. And then once we ask for reimbursement, we cost the revenue back to the cap projects fund, but we move the expenditure from general fund to cap projects, which we did at year end. So it freed up $200,000 in expenditures. The other thing is we had revenue recovery from fiscal year 22. So with some of our state grants, if you don't spend all the allocation at year end, they take that money from you and then you recover it in the next fiscal year. So we recovered 180,000 this year at the end of the year. And then we also spent some ESSER funding. Obviously we had some tough times financially, December, January of last year. And so we started costing more things to ESSER and started using more of those funds. Our ESSER 3 funding, we have probably 70,000 left. And then our learning loss funds is a little bit more, but that's going to be geared for summer school and learning recovery. So while we're happy that we ended up higher than where we were, we still need to be conservative with our spending and looking at trying to plan for the future so we can increase our fund balance and cover any things that come up, such as our insurance increasing so significantly this year. Looking at our ASB fund, everything's getting back to normal, which is nice. So we're having more events. Our clubs are starting to be more active. One thing I'm going to work on with our ASB general, with our ASBs at the middle and high school is spending our ASB general dollars. We have a lot of that. It's kind of just a slush fund right now. We need to start spending that on the kids, and there's a lot of different things they can do and making sure that they know what they can do with that money. I'm kind of tired of seeing it sit there. So they're raising money, but they're not spending it.
Right.
And it needs to be spent.
Drew, can I back you up for just a second? You
Yeah.
said we had about 70,000 left of ESSER three. I
Yes.
assume there's a timeline that has to be spent by?
Yeah, this is ending in September of this year. So by the end of September 24,
24.
we
Okay.
have to have that spent down. So we have a plan to spend it down and we'll make sure that we spend it down. So perfect. And then moving on to the cap projects fund, obviously we touched on the urgent repair grant. So we upgraded our fire safety systems last year. For our debt service fund, our bonds will be fully matured in December of 23, which is this month. And then we have our non-voted debt payments that are up in 27, 28. For transportation vehicle fund, we touched on this, but we moved funds from debt service to cover the bus payments. And we have actually ordered 2 new buses and should be receiving them in the next couple months. So we're excited about that. Get more buses back on our schedule. So, are there any questions?
Will this be on our website or made available?
Yeah, we can make it available.
Be great.
Anything else?
Any questions?
Thank you.
If I can, I really do want to commend Drew and Mona. You know, at the time, last February, when we started having public discussions and we were behind the 8 ball financially, I really appreciate the diligence that they put in to get some cost saving measures. And yes, we made some hard decisions, but we accomplished, I think, what the board intended, which was to try and get our fund balance up as quickly as possible. At some point in the future, I think we'll probably have a further discussion about that.
Great. Any other comments, questions? All right, on to board comments. I'd like to take the opportunity, I didn't get a chance, it happened so quickly, to just thank Dale for his time and service, really appreciate it, and it's been great sitting next to you, and hopefully I've learned a thing or two, so we'll see if I can keep it rolling, but thank you. And then, of course, welcome to Gina, really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say, we attended the door contest for the elementary. Yes, it's pretty cool. A lot of neat doors that they decorated. Not sure if they come up with the winner yet.
I have not seen it. I think they have a winner. I don't know if it's been announced yet. Has it been announced?
Not yet.
Any final words, Julie, or?
I don't know, just, I guess I can just say it's been an honor to serve for the district, and thank you to Dale for supporting me through 8 years, for taking that lead as chair. Just encourage you to keep academics as your focus. I mean, that was why I initially joined the board, was to try to improve the education for our kids. And I just really hope that the staff and the board embraces that goal of 80% of our kids on grade level. I know it's daunting, but I really hope it makes a difference. So.
Anything else? If not, we'll move into executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, performance of a public employee for 30 minutes with no business to follow. So, and then we will be adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.